Hi, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog, and today I'm going to show you how to turn a square heel like I did here for my Riptide socks. Square heels are a type of flap and gusset style heel compared to a traditional French or heart-shaped turn heel. The square heel produces a slightly narrower heel with a shorter gusset section. Just like for the French heel, you begin by creating a rectangular heel flap at the back of the foot. The heel flap is typically worked across half of the sock stitches and has as many rows as there are stitches across the flap. I've already knit a heel flap, so let's go ahead and turn the heel. After the last wrong side flap row is complete, we need to divide these heel flap stitches into 3 sections. If your stitches don't divide evenly, you need to remember 2 things. First of all, you always need to have the same number of stitches on the right side as the left side. Also, it's better to have more stitches in the center section than at the sides. So my heel flap is 32 stitches across. If I divide 32 into thirds, I'd have 10 stitches in each section with 2 left over. Since I need to have the same number of stitches on each side section, and it's better to have more stitches in the center than the sides, I'm going to place those 2 extra stitches in the center. So my flap is divided with 10 stitches on the right, 12 at the center, and 10 on the left. I have placed temporary locking stitch markers onto my needles just to divide those heel flap stitches into sections. Now let's turn our heel. For the first right side row, you're going to slip the first stitch and then knit across until you get to 1 stitch before the second marker. Now let's work the stitch before the marker and the stitch after the marker together with a left slanting decrease. So the marker needs to be removed. And then you can decrease with either an SSK or an SKP. Just make sure to use the same decrease through the entire heel shaping. So I'm going to use a slip knit. So I'll slip the first stitch knitwise, the second stitch knitwise, and then knit them together through the back loop. Instead of finishing out the rest of the row, it's time to turn the work over. For our first wrong side row, we're going to slip the first stitch. This minimizes the height difference between the first turn heel stitch and the side of the heel flap. Then we're going to purl across to 1 stitch before the marker. Again, we need to work the stitch before the marker and the stitch after the mark together with a left slanting decrease. So again, the marker can be removed. And since we're on the wrong side, we'll use a purl 2 together to work those 2 stitches together. Instead of continuing across the row, this is where we turn our work over. At this point, you'll notice that there is a very visible gap between these central turn heel stitches and the stitches on each side of the heel flap, both here and here. Those gaps can be used as landmarks for the rest of the turn heel so that you really don't have to do a lot of counting. For all right side rows, you're going to slip one and then knit to one stitch before this gap. Then you're going to close the gap with your left slanting decrease, either your SSK or SKP. I'm going to do my SSK. So I'll slip one knitwise, slip the second one knitwise, and then knit those two stitches together through the back loop. And then turn the work over. For all wrong side rows, we're going to slip the first stitch and then purl across to one stitch before this gap. And then close the gap with a left slanting decrease, in this case, a purl two together, and then turn the work over. Your turn heel will be complete after a wrong side row when no gaps remain at either side and you have the same number of stitches on your needle as there originally were in the center section when we divided the flap. So in this case, I'll only have 12 stitches remaining here at the heel when I'm done. After the heel is turned, it becomes very easy to see why this is called a square heel, because your turn heel section at the bottom of the foot very much is in the shape of a square. So after your square heel is turned, you're ready to start working in the round by picking up stitches on either side of the flap and beginning the gusset section of your sock. But that's going to be a topic for another day. I hope you enjoyed learning how to turn a square heel. I think it's a nice substitute for the standard French heel, especially for those of us who have a little bit narrower feet. If you'd like to try this technique in a pattern, head over to the shop section of thechilidog.com and look for my Riptide socks. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!